Hey folks, welcome back to Only Best Fancy Novels. My name is Robin, and today strap in because we have what could probably become a very long video. So this is my list of upcoming releases for the rest of the year from July straight through to December, like my most anticipated books. And this year, I don't know what's going on, but there's quite a lot of like really good books being released in the latter half of this year. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. And as always, like, these dates are tentative at this point, they can change, whatever. Just look into it for yourself, but this is a list as of I was able to compile at this point. Anyway, on July 8th we have Ben Aronovich's Stone and Sky, which is like the 10th or 11th installment in the Rivers of London series, and I actually read an arc for this. If I haven't posted a review as yet, it'll be up very soon, and this was a return to form for the series for me. A really great, a really great installment in its own right, and also one that for me recaptured the magic of the early books. Because the last maybe 3-4 books haven't really done it for me the way those early books did. This one started to recapture that vibe, so I'm very excited to see where things go from here. Anyway, on July 15th we have Moses Osei Otomi's The Memory of the Ogesi, and this is the final book in his Forever Desert trilogy of novellas. And this trilogy as a whole is an underrated gem in fantasy. Like, I absolutely love the first two novellas, and this one, like, he just went hard on this finale. These stories are all formulaic, but the way that they do things and how they do things and the actual content is just mind-blowing. And this one, he really pulled out the stops with what he does. Absolutely fascinating trilogy. Like, these are novellas. There's no excuse not to pick these books up and read them. They're very short reads. They're very fast reads. They're some of the best fantasy I've read in recent memory, bar none, no argument. So, like, really spectacular book. On July 29th, we have Rosalia Rodrigo's Beasts of Carnival. And this is another book I was able to get an arc for. And it's a really fascinating debut novel, drawing on like the exploration of slavery in the Spanish Caribbean. And this is an incredibly compelling book, to put it mildly. Like, it's very weird. I probably will have posted my review of it before I post this video, so if you want to know more, just check that video out. Like, I don't want to get into it because there's so much to talk about with that book. This video would really stretch out. So if you're even, check out that video or just look up a blurb of this book or whatever. If you're even remotely fascinated, interested in anything it does, I highly recommend you check this book out. So yeah, that is Rosalia Rodrigo's Beasts of Carnival. The next book I have to highlight is on August 19th, Charlie Jane Anders' Lessons in Magic and Disaster. And I have no idea what this book is about. I've just enjoyed everything I've read by Charlie Jane Anders to date. So when I saw like this was coming out, I added it to my list of books to read. I don't need to know what it's about. I discovered that when I start reading the book. And if you're a fan of hers, you should probably pick this up as well. So there's that. On August 26th, we have R.F. Kuang's Catabases. And I generally try to avoid finding out anything I can about books before I read them. I don't have an arc for this one or anything, but from what I saw mentioned online, this is essentially her twist on Odysseus's Odysseus, I think. There's some one of these Greek guys is their descent into hell to recover their love, and their return their descent into the underworld to recover their love. That story. Yeah, everyone knows that story. Anyway, so this is our spin on it, except we have two, it's set in an academic setting, and we have two students who have to go rescue their teacher or something like that. So that, honestly, that just sounds like R.F. Kuang having a bit of fun at this point. So I'm there to check out however that goes. We'll see. And then the next book I want to highlight, also out on August 26th, is Sebastian de Castell's The Malevolent 8. This is a sequel I didn't even know was coming out for The Malevolent 7. And it's this group of magicians who were forced to work, with each other, and they get up to shenanigans. It's that kind of story. Like, think Ocean's 11 or The Hateful Eight or The Magnificent Seven, that kind of vibe. Except in a fantasy setting with wizards. This book, it's actually it's actually already out in ebook, an audiobook. But the reason why I put it here is because the hardcover is coming out on August 26th. So yeah, there's that. Number 7, I have on the 2nd of September, I have KJ Parker's Making History. And this is a new novella from him. I have no idea what this is about, but the early responses I saw from people who've read the novella is very promising. And this is KJ Parker. You really can't go wrong reading anything KJ Parker writes at this point. Also out on 2nd of September, we have Anthony Ryan's Born of an Iron Storm, which is a sequel to which is the sequel to his Age of Wrath, to the first book in the Age of Wrath that was released last year. And this is his spin, an interesting spin on the whole Viking shtick that he has going on. Like, that first book it had a really incredible setup, so I'm very excited to see where this book goes. I should also mention that this book is part of a sequel series to his Covenant of Steel, and the first book at least does contain spoilers to the Covenant of Steel trilogy. So if you plan to read that trilogy, don't read these as yet. Read those first. Yeah. Moving on 16th of September, we have Samantha Shannon's Among the Burning Flowers. I have no idea what this is about, other than it's about a quarter of the size of the other Roots of Chaos books, and I think it's a prequel novella, or a prequel novel or something like that. I don't need to know what else this book is about, to be honest. I'll probably pick it up and read it. The Roots of Chaos, they haven't really blown my mind, but they have been like decent enough reads, so I'll pick this one up as well at some point and give it a shot. On the 30th of September, we have Kristen Britton's Falling in a Sea of Stars. And this will be the latest novel in her Green Rider series. And the Green Rider series is my dark horse series of 2025. It's been on my TBR forever. Shout out to Josephine and Stacy from the Chapter Conundrum. They were planning to read along. I mentioned I wanted to read at some point. They invited me in. And this series I have been having a blast with this series. Just check. I don't want to get into it and really drag this video out longer than it needs to be. So, needless to say, it's a really cool series if you want something classic fantasy. I probably already posted 1 or 2 videos about it. Check those out if you want. Or yeah, I'm very excited to get this book. Let's just leave it at that. Also out on 30th of September is Andrzej Sapkowski's Crossroads of Ravens. And this is a new Witcher book. Now, the Witcher books aren't the greatest, but what got me interested in this one is Vera's review, where she says that this is the book that people want when they pick up the Witcher books, because it follows Geralt in his early days as a Witcher. So that's enough to entice me to pick this up when it comes out. Yeah. On 7th of October, we have Martha Wells' Queen Demon. This is a sequel to The Witch King. And honestly, I didn't have that good of a time with The Witch King. It was an okay read. It was largely forgettable. It didn't really draw me in. Since then, I've read a little bit more of Martha Wells' fantasy, and I've come to understand her style and how she does things. So when I actually got an arc for this one that I've read, and I appreciate this book quite a bit more as a result of that. So if you're a fan of Witch King, you're going to have more fun here, because a lot of the things that I actually liked about Witch King, even though the book itself didn't quite manage to capture me as a whole, it's carried over into this one and it's escalated. So, yeah, there's that. Then, on 14th of October, we have Randy Reeve's second installment into the Chronicles of the Avatar series, with the second book to wrap up the Avatar Roku duology, The Awakening of Roku. So, like if you're an Avatar fan, there's no way you're missing these books. This deals with one of the more interesting questions of the show, which is how could Roku as an Avatar have a relationship with Sozin, and like how did that whole thing become the way it became in the show? Like if you're a fan of the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This very much kind of delves into that, with also some really good shout outs to the original show as a whole. So if you're a fan, definitely worth picking these up, and I'm very excited for this one to see how things close out. So there's that. On October 14th, we have Renee. I probably butchered that name, but we have The Work of Vermin. I have no idea what this book is about, other than it sounds pretty horrible. It sounds pretty strange, pretty fantastical. It's been described as like if you're a fan of people like China Malevolent, and so this is something you want to look into, which is all the description I need. Like, you had me at that line. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking this one out. I actually have an arc for it I'll read at some point, and I have very high hopes for it. Also out on the 14th of October, we have Adrian Tchaikovsky's Lives of Bitter Rain, which is a novella set in his Tyrant Philosopher's trilogy. And I'm very curious to see what this is about. I didn't read the synopsis or anything, so I don't know what exactly is going on here. It's the first novella in the series, and like, I know there's another full-length book coming early next year, I believe. So I believe it's early next year. So it's very. I'm not sure what the content of this novella is going to be, but if it keeps up the trajectory of the previous two books, we're going to be in an entirely new city with an entirely new cast of characters doing something entirely new, all for the sake of the Palestinians way. So there's that. On the 28th of October, we have Sung-Il Kim's Blood of the Undying Throne, and this is this sequel to last year's Blood of the Old Kings, which is this translated Korean fantasy epic that it's very much inspired by like classic 80s fantasy D&D kind of stuff. But that book had quite a bit more meat on its bones. When you hear that setting, like you have a certain preconception of what it is, but that book had quite a bit more meat on its bones for it. So I'm pretty interested to see where this book continues the story, because things did end with a pretty interesting cliffhanger. So yeah, this one is probably going to be as much fun as the first one was, because like I don't know if it's as a result of the non-Western influence as well, but like some of the imagination and some of the things that are on display in this book is also very out there. So in the series, I should say, is also very out there. So I'm very excited to see where the sequel goes. But to keep going, the next book I want to highlight, also out on October 28th, is is either my first or second most anticipated release of the last half of this year. I'm not sure. I'm tied, and it's No Life Forsaken by Stephen Erickson, and this is his continuation of the Witness trilogy, following Castle Overlong. That's all you need to know. That nothing more needs to be said. Just go on Witness. Also out on October 28th is Alexei Harrow's The Everlasting, and this is an expansion / continuation of a story she started in a short story with, I think it was an Immortal Night or something like that. I don't know. I didn't read too much of it because I tried to go into books as blind as possible, but it's Alexei Harrow, and she's become an author for me. Like, she's written some really spectacular stuff over the last year, over the last few years, very much capitalizing on genre trends. So I'm very excited to see what she gets up to in this book. So there's that. Then on November 4th, we have the other book that ties with Stephen Erickson for my most anticipated release of the second half of this year, and that's Benedict Jacka's A Judgment of Powers. This is the third book in his Stephen Oakwood Inheritance of Magic series, and this wraps up like the first arc, more or less. So I'm very excited to see what he gets up to in this book, because this series has just been spectacular for me. So yeah, and it turns out that like there's actually a third book that ties with these two for my most anticipated release of the second half of this year, and that is the book that also comes out on November 4th, Lies Weeping by Glenn Cook, a new installment into the Black Company. And I don't know anything about this book other than we follow, given it's a continuation of the series After Soldiers Live, and given how that ends, needless to say, we follow almost a new cast of characters. So I'm very excited to see what Glenn Cook gets up to, because this allows him to both continue the series in the best way as possible, whilst at the same time breaking away from the baggage of the series to date. So he has the flexibility to do some new and interesting things if he so chooses, while at the same time maintaining the magic, or the core magic that makes the Black Company what it is. So I'm very excited for this book, and it's the first of I think at least a trilogy. So yeah, like there's 3 books I'm very, very excited to get later this year, and I actually have arcs for this and the Benedict Jacob book. So I am going to read these 2 very, very soon. I haven't read them yet because I know when I read them I'm not going to be able to shut up about them. So yeah. Also out on November 4th we have Kate Elliott's The Nameless Land. This is the second book in her new duology with The Witch Roads, and I had a really good time with The Witch Roads. Like, it's very much kind of what I expect from Kate Elliott, like this classic fantasy story with just like this intricate character work and a fascinating world, and just like a really compelling story as a whole. I have very high expectations for The Nameless Road because I really enjoyed I have very high expectations for The Nameless Land because I really enjoyed The Witch Roads. So we'll see how things go when I pick that up. I kind of know where this is headed after having read the first book, but at the same time I didn't look at the blurb or anything, so I'm going into this fairly blind. There's that. Also out on November 4th is a huge day for fantasy releases. Like, over the span of late October, early November, there's a whole slew, there's like 15-20 new releases coming out in that span. So brace yourself for that period of time. Anyway, also out on 4th of November is Jay Kristoff's Empire of the Dawn, and this wraps up his Empire of the Damned trilogy, whatever. And honestly, I'm with this book for just the memes at this point. Like, it's a really good story, don't get me wrong, it's a really fun, a really entertaining story. It lives up to the hype, but at the same time, Jay Kristoff goes so extreme, and he's taking himself so seriously that at this point, I really can't, I can't bring myself to take him seriously at this point, or take the series seriously at this point. Like, it's pure entertainment value for me at this point. So we'll see where it goes. Like, I enjoyed this series so far, and I expect to enjoy this final book tremendously, but not in the same way that the average reader is going to enjoy it. Like, most people who read it will probably enjoy like the goriness, the violence, the edginess, whatever. For me, it's going to be more of a source of amusement of how hard Jay Kristoff is trying. But yeah, like I said, I still enjoy the book. So there's that. Also out on November 4th is James Logan's The Blackfire Blade, which is the sequel to last year's The Silver Blood Promise. And as I described The Silver Blood Promise, this series feels almost like Scotland Light. Like, it has a lot of the vibes of Lies of Lochlamora for me. So I'm very excited for this book as a result of that. Like, I think it's going to be a really entertaining installment into the series, and I think we'll see. So far there's only one book to speak to it, but we'll see if Silver Blood Promise was a one-off, or if James Logan could keep the magic going with his second book. So there's that. And then also out on November 4th, we have Sheldon Cost's The Great Work. And I just happened across this book because of the weird cover, and I liked it. And I saw it was essentially like a fantasy story set in almost like in like a historical Western setting. And I stopped reading at that point because that sounded enough, like, interesting enough for me to decide, okay, I'll read this. I'll just get this and read this at some point, and we'll see. So yeah, if you haven't heard about this book, it's on your radar now. You're welcome. on 11th of November, it turns out there's 4 books I'm very excited to get to this year. Oh boy. Yeah, so in addition to No Life Forsaken by Stephen Erickson, A Judgment of Powers by Benedict Jacker, and holy crap, I forgot what the other one was. Oh yeah, Glenn Cook's Lies Weeping. In addition to those 3, I completely forgot that on November 11th, we also get James Islington's The Strength of the Few, the sequel to Will of the Many, which was just an absolutely jaw-dropping series opener for me. I had a blast with it, and with the way things end, we know this book is going to be, it's going to continue the story in the best way, whilst at the same time being very different from the first one. So I'm very excited to pick it up and see where things go from there. I expect it's just going to be James Islington doing more of what he does best, which is to take what's at its core a very classic fantasy story, but give it such an interesting twist and dynamic that you're just compelled to keep reading. So I'm very excited for this. So that's 4 releases for in the back half of this year. Like, I'm super excited to get to. And I don't see myself getting disappointed by this, because I went into Lycanius with very low expectations, and he blew my mind. He completely blew my mind. I didn't know what I was walking into with The Will of the Many, and that was one of my favorite books of last year. Last year, I think I read it. Yeah. Anyway, needless to say, very excited for this one. And then the final book that I want to highlight that's coming out on November 11th is Travis Baldry's Brigands and Bread Knives. And this is the 3rd book in his Legends of Latte series, the book that basically popularized cozy fantasy, whatever. If you're interested in that series, you'll pick it up. I'll pick it up at some point to read what it is. And those are all the books that I'm excited for when it comes to in this latter half of the year. It is going to be some pretty interesting reading for the next few months. We're going to eat good, guys. We're going to eat good. And yeah, I know Brandon Sanderson has his collection coming out at the end of the year, but you know what? I don't care, because if it holds true for Sanderson's MO at this point, it's just going to be a book of repackaged fiction that he's already published elsewhere, with maybe 1 or 2 stories thrown in to allow him to make more money off of things that he's already written. So I really don't care about that book. I'll pick it up whenever, and if and whenever I so choose. I'm probably not going to... Actually, no, I will not buy it. If the chance comes up to borrow it or whatever, I'll buy it. But I don't care about that collection. If you do, good for you. Yeah, and that's those are all the new releases I'm excited for coming into this second half of this year. If you have any that haven't been mentioned, feel free to drop a comment and let me know about it. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.